Hello everyone. I'm going to do a marathon of videos today because I've got a very long drive and I want to make the best use of my time. I am heading out to Ottawa. I just finished charging my first charging at the superstation. I am not going to be looking at the camera too much. It's a perfect overcast day, so I don't have the sun in my eyes or anything like that. I'm heading to Ottawa to bring my fairy goddaughter back from Ottawa to the Toronto area. Bit of a story there, but there is a cat involved, so eventually at some point today we'll introduce you to Mickey. But I thought I'd give you a little bit of a background story on why I'm doing this marathon today. Now, for years, I've been wanting to write a book about my adventures in this life, and I have written quite a bit of it, but the hard part about writing a book is I get emotionally back into that time again, and it's not a good place for me to be. But I think if I were to do videos and explaining the situation and the situations and everything that I had been through, and then have Victoria jump on in after she gets into the car with me, and we're going to do a bit of a conversation and her memories of the times that she had lived with me and the things that we went through. And I always say I have an extraordinary life. It's very ordinary with a lot of extras. Now we're in a bit of a situation, and I wish I had a book done and I can say, I'm going to sell it. I can't sell it right now. Victoria, if you're on watching right now or listening, if you can do me a favor and take my Linktree link there and pop it into the comments, so that way people can take a look at it and see the stuff that I've got going on. And if somebody wants to add a link to my link to shine some light on their business or organization or something that they want advertised, brought some attention to, please do so, and I'll take care of that at the next charging stop. But in the meantime, the whole goal of these videos today is to explain my story, what's going on, what's happened in my past, also to bring some value to others, to help others. We are going to be taking this, editing it down, and putting it on TikTok eventually, but it will be transferred over to YouTube. I like doing Facebook Live videos because there is a bit of interaction. You guys know a little bit of what's going on. Today is a day about complete transparency, or as much as possible. I've talked about doing this for a little while and discussed it with a few people in the past, what their thoughts are on that and what they think I should contribute and be honest about. And I want to share the good, the bad, and the ugly, how I got through some certain times. Now I'm resorting to this situation to help me, and I got to really do a big, huge group effort here in sharing my links and shopping my How to Eat an Elephant eBay store. I've got some affiliate links as well that I've got in my Linktree. Shop some of my favorite items from Amazon if you want. But we're going to talk about, we got a lot of hours here, and like I said, I want to make the best use of this time. Now, a little bit of information with regards to what's happening with my mortgage on my house. Now, this is helpful to people who are considering property investing and knowing the signs of an unethical lender. Unfortunately, I didn't see the signs because I was still very naive when I first got involved with this mortgage. I got myself a coffee here. Burger King was the closest open restaurant. And I'm sorry, Keith, I know you're going to give me heck later when you see this video and know that I was in Trenton charging. I didn't have time to stop and do anything other than charge and go. So excuse me while I have a sip of my coffee. we'll get started on what's happening now and why it's such a dire circumstance that I have a call out to everyone to hey Mark, call out to everyone to help for your help and support, because I can't do this alone. It's too big of a problem, and I really need the power of numbers here. And the power of numbers is the power of people. I've got a lot of friends who've been so amazing in their support, Mark being one of those people. Hi, Elvin. I can see you're there too. So a few years back, I moved back to my own house after selling the elephant, and I still had a mortgage on my property. And we're going to go over eventually at some point why I still had a mortgage on my property, on my own home. I needed to renew it. I wanted to continue forward with property investing. Unfortunately, it was still a time of COVID lockdowns and things like that, so there was some funky moves I made that, in retrospect, I kind of wish I hadn't done it, but you got to live and learn. This particular mortgage, I was dealing with a fantastic mortgage broker. I will always praise Matt on the efforts he's made. Now, when you are a property investor and when you're self-employed, you can't just go to banks. Banks don't even look at you. So you got to look alternative routes. So Matt was helping me with this. Now, I'm not going to mention everybody's names in everything, because I'm literally going to go through the good, the bad, and the ugly, and there's certain names that I cannot mention, including the lenders' names of this. Now, on the flip side of this, if you are someone who is considering getting into mortgage lending, because private lenders are a growing trend, please make sure the company that you're dealing with, it has ethical practices, and do caps on their renewal fees. That was part of my problem with this situation. And also, as a borrower, someone who is taking the mortgage on, or, you know what I mean, I never get the two right. But anyway, somebody who's borrowing the money, check into what their terms are, and also be very careful of time of year, because once you get closer to November, December, as far as closing is concerned, your renewal is going to happen around a time when your financing isn't there, because everybody is on holidays, from the actual mortgage companies and the lenders. So no deals can be made. And this is where one of the early red flags were for me, but I didn't know it until it all went through. I was supposed to originally close on this mortgage in September of 2021, and they delayed it, and delayed it, and delayed it, and delayed it, and we kept on trying for other avenues at that time. Now remember, this mortgage is a problem for me today. This has been a problem for a few years now, and I've been trying to get out of it for a few years now. The problem is the situation is getting so bad now that I may lose everything I've ever built, because, well, we'll get to that. Well, let's get through from the beginning of the story. These guys kept on delaying and asking me for more and more information after they had pre-approved me, and it started getting a little bit on the sketchy side. I wanted to back out of it, but for whatever reason back at that time, I can't remember clearly, because there was so much going on. I was juggling 3 mortgage renewals at that time. They did trap me into a mortgage originally with the cottage. I was able to find another lender, and thank you for that. I know you'll be watching this at some point as well. Someone stepped up and did a mortgage investment. We're doing business together. So that's all I can really say about that, because I am keeping that person's business private and protected. But anyway, originally it was 2 mortgages, one against my own house and one against my cottage. So it was a blanket mortgage. eventually I was able to get that other mortgage. Where are you going? Where are you going, car? I'm on full self-drive. So, okay. Alright, I gotta pay attention. That's why I can't look at the camera too much. So I did eventually get the cottage released from that mortgage, and that gave me a little bit of relief. But what this mortgage lender did was not only charge me premium rates, I'm trying to keep this all straight. So we went through 1 year of mortgages with them, and it was a tough situation, but I made it through. And then the second year, they kind of put the screws to me a bit. And I had an $8,500 a month mortgage. That's with the cottage, which is astronomical. Like I said, I'm going to be truthful and honest. I want to be totally transparent so you can see that I take responsibility in the sense that I was naive. My mortgage broker was still new to this. It wasn't until later, until all commitments were signed, that we started finding out the truth about this company. And so anyway, let's fast forward. December of this past year, December 2023, my mortgage came up for renewal again. And I could not find any other lenders because everybody was on vacation. I had no choice but to renew these with these people. And they have brokerage fees, and they have renewal fees, and they had a long list. And that's when the $8,500 a month came in. So I said, if I have to suffer with $8,500 a month, I'm only going to do this short term, because I knew the mortgage rates were going to go down, and I'll have a better chance in 6 months as opposed to 1 year renewal, back into a December timing again, that it would be the same situation all over again. So I just basically ate it for 6 months. Now, when the original mortgage, part of the reason why I did what I did was because I didn't think I was going to stay in my house for any more than a temporary situation. At one point, before I moved back into my own house, I was calling it my disposable house so that I would be emotionally detached from it. And it was my workhorse. It was a tool to further myself and my family as it was going. So last July was the end of the 6-month term. And I was fully expecting, with all the hard work I was doing and the numbers I was pulling, that I would be able to get out of this mortgage. And we tried. We did everything we could to get out of this mortgage. We found other lenders. I even reached out to other mortgage brokers to see if they had anything in their portfolios that would be able to help. My lawyer, I'd like to describe him as he was a good lawyer at one time. He was a very understanding and good lawyer at one time, years ago. Somewhere along the line, he became not a good lawyer. And he referred me to 2 mortgage brokers. And time was becoming of the essence. I went to him after my mother died. He had possession of my mother's will. We had a discussion, and he said, hey, get in contact with these 2 guys. So I did. One responded immediately and promised me the moon and the stars and said he's right on it. He'll get to it. He'll find me something better than what I've got. And at this point, because of the mortgage payments that I was making, everything else was kind of going to the side. I had to make sacrifices. And some of it was my credit score. So that was working against me. And then the second mortgage brokers, the first one said that he was going to be on it. I gave him everything he needed, and then disappeared. Just disappeared. The second mortgage broker, now these are two outside of Matt Kelly. Matt Kelly, I will sing his praises till the day I die. And anyway, the second mortgage broker said he was on it, that he was making progress, and he was going to forward me some information, whatever. And now time's ticking. Now, deadlines are, and he's like, don't worry about the deadlines, we'll work with it. And the lawyer said the same thing to me. He said, don't worry about the deadlines or the penalties. We'll take care of it. We'll work with it. We'll make them disappear. So I was being promised a lot. And I had faith in them. And I did end up finding another mortgage. It wasn't the most ideal terms, but it was cheaper than what I was paying at $8,500 a month. It was a lot cheaper. Excuse me. And then I'd start booking appointments to sign all the documents for this mortgage so everything would go through in a timely fashion. And my lawyer started making delays. Now, I've had experiences with lawyers in the past, not my own personal lawyers, it would be the other person's lawyers, and we'll get onto that topic today too. I am going to talk about what happened in 2017 at one point today. Anyway, so right away, alarm bells are starting to go off, and I'm trying to put pressure on my lawyer, like, let's get this deal done, because I am facing penalties and stuff like that. And somewhere along the lines, it took approximately 6 to 8 weeks for this deal to get done. And it was supposed to have been done in July. It finally got done in September. Somewhere in that timeline, the current mortgage lender disclosed that I had not paid the July payment, which was not true. I have never defaulted on payments. I can't say never anymore, but until that time, I had always paid to date in full. Never had a problem. Always made sure that everything was taken care of, because I did not want to go homeless. And at this point, I had my daughter living with me, and this was her home. Despite my mom dying and having to pay all the costs of her funeral, or for her cremation, we haven't had a funeral. We haven't had the money to do a celebration of life. That's why nobody's heard about one, because I have not been able to get it together enough to be able to do a celebration of life for my mom, who is well deserving. So these bastards lied to the new lender so that I'd have nowhere to turn to except back to the lender that was giving me the screws already, so that I don't go homeless and lose my house. My daughter doesn't go homeless. People say, why don't you just sell the house? there's a story behind that too, but right now let's just focus in on these unethical lenders and what they've done to us. We kept looking for other alternatives everywhere, anywhere, and we had no other choice but to go back to the current lenders, who tacked on penalties and fees that my lawyer said that I shouldn't have to worry about, who at one point called me up on a Saturday night and said, "Hey, I saved you $20,000. And I'm like, yeah, but you just added $50,000 on with everything that's going on. I was supposed to walk away with $50,000 cash after the mortgage renewal to take care of things that needed to be taken care of, including my mom's celebration of life. In the end, I don't even know what the exact numbers are anymore, because it was just so traumatizing what I was going through, and I was literally victimized by these lenders, and I can't do anything about it, because if I do anything legally about it now, they may recall the mortgage on me. Fortunately, my social media is under a different name than my actual legal name, so they'd have to really be watching me closely to know who the fuck I am, pardon the language, but we're going to be very transparent today, and you're going to hear a lot of foul language today. And these are going to be a number of hours of live videos today. I'm doing a round trip to Ottawa. I am being paid to do this, so I'm not losing a great amount of income, but, like I could be working on other things, but this, to me, is the best use of my time while I'm driving, doing this distance. It's going to be a 14-hour round trip in total with the charging, and we're going to have a special guest star today. But anyway, I'm trying to avoid any kind of legal repercussions right now, because if my mortgage gets recalled overnight, my credit score is currently at the point where I'm fucked royally. I don't have, because I know landlords right now. I was in the industry for long-term landlords. I would not be able to buy or rent anything. My daughter, sorry, I just got a message through. My daughter and I would be homeless. I have made any kind of precautionary measures in case this is the case for my daughter. But I could potentially be facing homelessness, literally being on the streets within a couple of months if things don't turn around with the power of numbers and social media and getting you guys to help me out. I am not asking for a GoFundMe account. People have stepped up and given me a helping hand here and there, and I don't want to owe any more than what I already do. I don't want a GoFundMe account. I want to be able to monetize my YouTube channels. I have several. I want to be able to sell my eBay store again, or not. I want to sell my inventory. I want to be able to encourage people to even buy a $5 button or something like that to help me out here. I'm not asking for a lot. I'm asking for shares, likes, follows, comments, as much activity as possible on my social media. And this has to happen fast, like lightning fast. GoFundMe is an amazing thing to do, but it's not for me. I'm not built that way. I believe there should be an exchange. I am not a charity. I do have an eBay store that, again, all transparency, with digital print on demand and physical inventory. I have $4.5 million worth of inventory in there. 30% sales from that inventory could get us out of this shit and possibly make life a lot more comfortable. I'm not asking for sell out overnight. I'm just asking, please share it. Share it. Just, I got 2 weeks. Not for the full amount, just for my next mortgage payment. My Airbnbs, the cottage is shut down because it's a 3-season. Elliott Lake is a residential house, but it's got very slow bookings right now. And I've got the booking prices down to as low as I can go and still make a few dollars to pay the expenses. My eBay store is definitely the one place where I can make magic happen very quickly and get out of this mess. And that's where I really need all of you guys. You can find my link in my link tree, and you'll see all of my links. I'm still a practicing realtor. I'm still licensed. I renewed my license back in January. January was a fun month. I'm getting messages through, and I keep getting distracted with those. My daughter doesn't deserve this. What I'm looking at, what I'm facing right now is I can't sell my Airbnbs. It will actually not put a dent once I pay out everything from realtor fees, legal fees, mortgages, all of that. It won't even, and let's say CRA, it won't even put a dent into this mortgage to save my ass. So they're actually worth more to me. They're worth more to me than, as an income earner, than they are if I sell them off. Ironically, that's just the state of the market. That's how it is. I put a lot of safety nets involved. I bought these. Everything I've done up until now has been to create income streams so that I can take care of my mom while she was still with me, so that so I could avoid putting her in a home. I did not want to put her into a nursing home. That was my absolute last resort with everything. Unfortunately, I would have thought for sure her heart would have given out long before the Alzheimer's had taken the nasty turn that it did. Unfortunately, she lived out the entire disease in all the stages, and it got to the point where she was aggressive and violent and exit seeking. And anybody who's lived with Alzheimer's knows this is not something that you can take care of, especially by yourself. If you don't have any experience with Alzheimer's, if you can imagine a toddler, a giant-sized toddler with diapers, losing their mind, having a temper tantrum, and hitting, kicking, and screaming, and thinking that their way is the right way, and the strength to push someone downstairs or punch or go running out into the street screaming, saying that they're being abused when all you want to do is put them in the shower. These are the realities of what I was dealing with, and then some. And there's a lot of people that witnessed it. And there's times where I did have to leave the house for a couple of days so that I can take care of business out of town. and I would have to hire people to come in, or, thank God for my housemate at the time. She had a good relationship with my mom, and I was able to trust her. However, my mom was so unpredictable that even she was under threat. My mom started taking swings at me, and we're going to talk about my childhood, the abuse that I went through as a child at some point today too, because it all builds up to what's going on today. Like, I'm going to talk about everything today. Like I said, I wanted to write a book, but I can't go back there and write it and then edit it and spend hours and days and weeks on one subject, and it not have the emotional effect on me like it has in the past when I've tried to write about it before. And I've talked about it many times on Facebook, about how I'm writing a book and I can't wait until it's done, and I'm, getting close to it being done. There's been many people who I've talked to, and they're asking me how it's coming along, and it's like, it's okay, I'm stuck, or I've got writer's block, or whatever. But right now, the live videos today is me verbalizing everything, what I've written about, what I've not written about yet. It's raw. It's going to be raw, and it's going to be transparent, and it's going to be, I'm hoping that my story will help people. I glanced down, I saw Robin was on. I don't know if she still is, but she helped me with her story. I hope I help others with my story. Just, okay, so that's the story about why why it's so urgent for me to call out for help right now, and ask for everybody, anybody who watches this, like, share, subscribe, follow, comment, shop my eBay store, book your summer vacation in Sauble Beach, your summer stay in Sauble Beach. Go explore Elliott Lake and stay at my place. Elliott Lake is an amazing little, what I call a micro city in the middle of the wilderness. It has everything: a hospital, public transportation, services, clubs, restaurants, and it's, I think it's 25 minutes off of Highway 17, north of Highway 17. If you don't know where it is, look it up on the map. It's an extraordinary place for outdoor adventures all year long. Excuse me. It's a great place to retire to if you own property down in the city and you want to cash out and be cash rich, house, and have very little costs. Elliott Lake is one of those places where you can go to within Ontario where the real estate prices are still reasonable. It is kind of the midway point between Sudbury and Sault Ste. Marie. There are some towns that are, half of an hour and stuff away where it makes it still accessible to other areas and shopping. The biggest problem, if you're looking for a business, I'm going to share this idea with you. I'm going to ramble on as usual. This is unscripted. I do have some ideas exactly what I'm talking about today, but part of it I'm going to need Victoria here for when she climbs in the vehicle. We're going to get there. Victoria, if you're watching right now, I am now approaching, I don't know where the heck I am. Apparently I'm heading to Perth off the 401. I won't be going through Kingston at all. Oh, I'm in Tweed. Look at that. Go figure. That's why, okay, the pin was over the word Tweed. So I'm in the little town of Tweed right now. I've come through here a couple of times. I've done some property scouting through here in the past. I travel through here sometimes when I go to Ottawa. I don't go to Ottawa often, but anyway, where was I? Elliott Lake. Elliott Lake has cheap real estate. You can get a house there and still carry it for cheaper than rent down in the city. It's got some tourism. It's definitely a great place to live because you're surrounded by all that wilderness and forest, and if you love nature, it is the place to be. If you love fishing, it is the place to be. If you just want to unwind and just watch the birds and listen to nature, uh, it's beautiful. I didn't fall in love with it right away. Okay, here, I'm going to transfer or transition over to how I got into tax sales, how I got into Elliott Lake. Do I start with the cottage first and then I'm going to work my way backwards a little bit. So, everybody knows I started my life over in 2017. Everybody knows that I had to design a life around my mom's care. Everybody knows that I'm an Airbnb host and I'm into real estate. I love real estate. It's in my blood. I'm second generation property investor. I tried to do things differently than what my parents did because I saw some of the things that they did, and I knew they could have taken it further. Kind of understand now why they hated the M word, mortgage. I'm really not liking it much either, but it is a tool when you're in business. Like everybody heard over the years about how I had a few rental properties, Airbnb properties. I had the RV. I actually originally purchased the Tesla to rent out. All of this was to generate enough income so that I can support my mom, her property, myself, and I was paying child support for my children, and I had my oldest child to support as well. I had a big load on my shoulders, a very large, seemingly impossible load of responsibilities. And things I had to do had to be out of the box thinking, totally creative, out of the box thinking, because there is no handbook. There is no manual or YouTube channel that identifies the amount of things and people I had to deal with. And I really needed to create a lot of passive incomes so that I could be hands-on with my mom, with clearing the elephant and everything else I was doing. So when I had to start my life over again, actually, we're not going to delve into that part of how I indirectly got into Airbnbs, but not yet. I was looking at a property that I wanted to buy for myself and escape the city. It was 95 acres, and it had a house on it, and that deal fell through. But I had everything in order. I had all the paperwork, everything was taken care of, and then I was sitting there with this mortgage, the cash from the mortgage, and the owner decided to keep it for themselves. So I had to, there's a roundabout way to how I got into Airbnbs. I had to figure out what I was going to do with this money because I couldn't give it back without penalties. So I had to make it work for me. So I decided I was going to pursue something that I had researched for years. At that point, I had already about 10 years of research into doing property tax sales. And after what I had been through in 2017, the whole idea of leveraging private mortgages, things like that, terrified me. Just absolutely terrified me until 2017, when I think the very worst of what anybody can experience in their lives without losing a child that's what I had gone through, and it made me fearless. And I will get into that topic of 2017 in great detail so that everybody knows with regards to domestic violence and narcissistic personality disorder abuse. It's a mouthful. But anyway, this is how I got introduced to Elliott Lake. I was scouting all over Ontario. My boundaries were southern Ontario, as far as Sarnia, Windsor, as far west as that, all the way east to Ottawa. Now, remind you too, I was still doing real estate clients too. But I'm not going to drag my clients into this because, well, maybe some later on today. But anyway, I looked as far east as Ottawa, Mattawa, and as far north, my northern region was Sault Ste. Marie. I had considered Thunder Bay at one point because I just wanted to be able to have choices, I guess. Now, tax sales, when I say tax sales, I'm talking about municipal tax sales where property owners have gone into default with their property taxes, and they're in arrears for 2 to 3 years, and the municipalities, the townships, or regions will put them up for auction. It's a type of auction. You submit, you don't know what anybody else is bidding, you submit whatever you desire, whatever fits in your budget, and you may win, you may lose. Chances are likely you are going to be outbid, but every so often you are lucky. But I don't recommend doing this unless you have balls of steel. It's not an easy, stressless thing to do. I have, talked about this to a few people. A lot of people ask me about, how I did this. You got to be fearless. I know how to read a house from the exterior. You cannot enter the property. You are doing these bids sight unseen. You do have to do a lot of research behind the scenes because there's things that are happening behind the scenes, like on paper, that you don't know about, as far as, like, you can have this beautiful house and they owe $250,000 to the Crown, or in tax liens, or they have outstanding child support or whatever. There's many reasons, and sometimes and you are often, if you are buying that property, you are responsible to pay that amount out. Not a cool situation to be in. You really do have to weigh out your market value on that property and see if it's worth it. Whenever I see something like that has an outstanding amount like that, I don't even look at it. It's just too much trouble than it's worth. Because you have no idea what's going on inside the property. It could be, fully rotted out, mold damage, whatever. Which brings me to Elliott Lake. I think that year, it was 2019, I got into Elliott Lake. It was late in the year. There was 3 properties I bid against. One of them actually got canceled. It was a tax sale that was canceled by the city, and somebody had paid out the outstanding arrears, whatever the case was. But there was 2 other properties that I actually I was successfully buying on, and I got them for dirt cheap. For, when you talk about Ontario real estate prices, and even by Elliott Lake terms, They were dirt cheap for 2019. Notice it's 2019, and it was November 2019, October or November 2019 that I got possession. Now, I say I got two, but I walked away from one of I cut my losses because I just had a bad feeling. I had a really bad gut feeling if I took both these properties on. It was a total fluke that I got them to begin with. I just thought I'd throw my hat in the ring and see what would happen and hope for the best. And, to get one, you're really lucky. To get both, wow, but both needed serious attention. One of them, the neighbors, when I went to go see what I was what I had purchased, and now remember, I had never been to Elliott Lake at this point. I bought these two properties, totally sight unseen. I had somebody scout for me. They gave me a little bit of a backstory on it, so I knew to expect the worst. Didn't expect COVID. Anyway, so I walked away from the second one, but I kept the first one that was actually close to an identical twin, as close as you can get to an identical twin of my own property, my house, my home. The house that I bought 27 years ago, the one that's under threat right now. They're all under threat right now. Anyway, that's how I'm going to see it, because that's how I can see it playing out. Anyway, I bought the Phoenix. It wasn't named the Phoenix right away. I'd already had Sobel. I'd already had minor renovations with Sobel experience, and I've had my own renovations at my house experience. So, the Phoenix, I already had a vision because it was so similar to my own house. And, contractors. Fucking contractors, man. Fucking contractors. Sorry, I know you're not all of them. I know I have a few contractors in my, who are watching. But there's some dirty ones out there. There's some real dirty ones out there that... The first one I hired him, he was recommended to me. I can't remember who recommended it. He had done a roof, and this house needed a roof immediately. I could see that it was not going to last another Elliott Lake winter unless I slapped a roof on it right away. And he was supposed to do more work on the inside. And God bless Tex in the Trees and Craig Harrison. Both of those guys I highly, highly, highly recommend for working in Elliott Lake. They saved my ass because they saw what was going on, and they were notifying me that this guy was doing me the dirty. And yeah, he did a roof on the place, but that's as far as he got before I had to fire him. And the guy ghosted me. He kept on lying to me, saying he was doing all this work, and I'm demanding pictures, and I'm demanding drawings, and the guy eventually just ghosted me, stopped responding to any of my messages. And fortunately, the roof was paid for. I had not put any money down for anything else, but he's telling me that he's doing all this interior work, and I was getting nothing. And this was not my first rodeo with a shitty contractor. So I knew the alarm bells were going off, and I was sent photos by Tex and Craig, and yeah. Thank you guys. I hope you see this video at some point. Thank you. You both come very highly recommended by me. I trust you. I trusted you with my world back in 2019, 2020, and you helped me out quite a bit. Anyway, yes, it's Burger King. It was the closest one that was to the charging station, and it was open. I don't recommend their coffee. Anyway, so I did eventually hire Michelle Druin at Right Contracting, and he's the one that worked the magic and helped me name the Phoenix, because it was a start from a new beginning for him and a new beginning for me, and it was a new beginning for this house. If this house was not a semi-detached house, it should have been a knockdown. It was falling apart. The only thing we had left was the bones, and we had to do what we can to bring it back to life. Now, the reason why I wanted to turn it into an Airbnb, at first I was considering a long-term rental, but then COVID happened. Boy, was COVID a fun time. Almost as much fun as what I'm going through now. COVID happened, and that's when a lot of stuff came to light with regards to long-term landlords and tenants, and I was very fortunate with my own long-term tenants. They all paid their rent, but Ford really didn't help matters. And so I decided, because it was taking a lot of time to get this renovation done, it actually ran 6 months longer than it was supposed to because of COVID delays, inventory delays, supply chains, all of that stuff. We couldn't get it done anywhere quick. So I didn't know exactly what we were going to do, so I figured putting it as an Airbnb, and yes, I did get some flack about that from neighbors at first, but I showed them real quick that Airbnb is the best solution for everyone involved, because if I had put in a bad tenant, my neighbors would have got stuck with a bad tenant long term until I could get them out. And I couldn't sell it because there was too much money in it, and with the renovations. So Airbnb was the best solution for that problem. I don't know if we should even touch on, part of the problems where I am today is from COVID lockdowns and recovering from all the shit that went on then. It's amazing how things played out with that. When I bought the Phoenix and when we started renovations, I was in such a great financial position that I was able to consider paying for respite care for my mom and traveling a little bit and enjoying life a little bit for the first time in many years, and recover from what we had gone through. I did get to go on vacation. I booked a 10-day vacation that turned into 5. That wasn't too much fun. I got to see the lay of land of Florida for the first time, and that was pretty cool. I did it from a convertible Mustang, and that was neat. I got to see everything down to the Keys, from Orlando all the way down. That was pretty amazing, and I was actually considering at that point to buy an Airbnb down there. And this was end of January, beginning of February of 2020. I'm going to jump around all over the timelines. I don't know how to tell my story without it being convoluted and overlapping and all of that. So January, February 2020, I did, I think January 29th, I can't remember the exact dates. I did a 10-day vacation in 5. Shit just started happening at home. I'm back. Apparently got the same problem with wireless connections here in this area with the rocks as I do when I travel up north. I'm back. Anyway, we were working on the Phoenix fully gutting it and building it from the roof down. We got the main floor done, but anyway, when things were rolling in the right direction with the Phoenix after firing the first contractor, and it's too bad, he had a baby on the way and everything. He could have made some good coin and provided for his family, but I guess he planned on watching video games instead. Don't know how that situation worked out. Never heard from the guy again. But I knew I was helping another family make their start, make their name in town. Very grateful for everything there. Michelle does awesome drywall, epoxy countertops. It was his first time doing it, and I was very pleased with that. I'm glad he talked me in that direction. It was a bit of a trial just to find the supplies for epoxy countertops at that time, but it was a bit of a trial for a lot of things back then. So anyway, everything was rolling along, and by the way, that Florida trip was my first vacation in over 20 years. That's how long I had been hit with non-stop shitstorm. Apparently, 2025 is supposed to be a good year for me after, who knows, the Zodiac, apparently in the stars, it says it's going to be a very fortunate year for me. Hopefully today I'm making my fortunes. So I got back and I nearly killed myself because I was so exhausted. I was in such a deep depression after that abbreviated vacation in Florida. And I do suffer from depression. I do have a hard time with winter blues or solar affective disorder or seasonal affective disorder, whatever you want to call it. Sad. It is truly sad. And all the stresses, everything that I was going through, I was really trapped in a world that I didn't want to be in as far as the situation with the elephant. Now, there's things I haven't talked about the elephant. I've told you all about the hand grenades and stuff, but we're going to touch on that later. Working on the Phoenix. I was very trapped in the elephant, and I really, really needed a vacation. A real vacation where I did not have to worry about anything at all. And I remember sitting on the back porch at the elephant with Victoria, who was living with us at the time. And I said, I just want to go to Miami, which is a whine I used to do. I want to go to Miami. I didn't really want to go to Miami, but it was just something that I did and said. It was, it was my escapism line, I guess. And we were just bouncing around ideas, and she's consoling me, and I'm like, I said that. And I looked at her, and this is one of my best ideas ever came across, and she goes, why don't you? Why not? And this is, Victoria, my sometimes enabler for the ridiculous. And I looked at her and I go, why not? I go, I'm looking at this too big of a picture. I'm looking at what normal people do, and that's 1 week to 2 weeks vacation, going somewhere. I can do a day trip. I can fly down, and I can afford 1 day of laying on the beach, because if I didn't, I was going to go lose my fucking mind. I was truly suicidal at this point, and just totally beside myself, with not being able to get a good, enjoyable break without shit hitting the fan and calling me home again. But I could take a day. And just, I had, I had enough money where I could enjoy a cheap flight down to Miami. I was curious about Miami. It wasn't an urgency for me to see Miami. I was curious. I've heard a lot about it. Beaches sound wonderful. The restaurants sounded great. I'm not much of a shopper. All I wanted was a day on the beach. And Victoria she should be a travel agent, but she's got better things on the go than that now. But she was magical with her phone and, Air Canada, and finding me these cheap same day round tickets on Air Canada. And I had a trip booked for a day, and that was, I'll forever call it my day of decadence, where I flew down a few hours, got up early in the morning, took an Uber to the airport, and this is when I was still not fully driving yet. Took an Uber down to the airport, flew down to Miami, took an Uber, twisted my ankle, took an Uber from the airport straight to South Beach, hobbled a little bit. It was bloody painful, twisted ankle, right as soon as I got out of the airport too. Hobbled around the beach and got the lay of the land and looked around and saw stuff that I had never seen before. And I laid on the beach and watched the seagulls and listened to the waves and, looked around. This was March 3rd or 5th, I can't remember. I think it was the 3rd, 2020. And this is when, whispers of COVID were already happening. And they were comparing it to Zika virus and all that. And, the airplane with the banner flew by, the Trojan. I have videos of this. I've shared it on Facebook. And then, now Chase, here's somebody else I'm going to recommend. If you're ever in the Miami area, he's a friend on Facebook as well. Chase has Airbnb experiences that he advertises down in Miami. It's a boat tour. Amazing experience. I booked that for the day. I was expecting, and now back then I was still very traumatized, still dealing with a lot of PTSD. Flying down to Miami and not knowing anybody down there and doing something I had never done before and was totally out of my comfort zone. Totally out of my comfort zone. Usually, when I travel with somebody or I'm meeting somebody when I get to travel, which was barely back then. I would always meet somebody that I knew wherever I was going, and as I had done the first time I went down to Florida, or the month before. So I booked a boat tour through Airbnb experiences with Chase. I can't remember what his experience is called on Airbnb, but I will leave a link to that eventually at some point. I was expecting to be one and a group of other people or something like that, at least a couple more people. It ended up becoming a very private boat tour, just Chase and I on his boat at that time. It was just a small boat. He's got a much bigger and better things now. It's very cool to see. And it was a wonderful experience where he took me out and I got to see the skyline of Miami. He pointed out all these things. We were looking for manatees. He said he would keep an eye out for me to show me. That's one thing I still haven't seen, which is one of my dreams to see. People dream of dolphins for some reason. It's manatees with me. I guess I identify with manatees. I always felt like a manatee. Um, at least back then I did, not since I've lost the weight. But yeah, then we should talk about that too. Yeah, it was a beautiful experience, and it just happened that back then Chase was also an Uber driver. So after the boat tour, I had to get back to the airport, hop on the, do the lines and all that stuff, and be there early enough. And it was so funny because I was still wet from the beach and swimming when, like, Chase found a sandbar. He made me a lunch on the boat while I was, floating around and just cooling off on the sandbar there. And yeah, I'll never forget that was the first and last time I've had pan-fried arugula and was it tilapia? I think he did tilapia for me for lunch. It was lovely. Again, highly recommend him. I will add his link in my link tree if you're ever down in the Florida area, in the Miami area. He's a must. Yeah, he's definitely a must. It's a great experience. So anyway, he drives me back to the airport, and I'm going through airport security, and I had to they had to frisk me, and my bathing suit was still wet. I was just wearing a dress and a sweater. Mind you, it's still early March, and that's how I was going back to Toronto. I just had my beach bag, my passport, and my phone, and the security, she's frisking me, and she goes, "Oh my God, she's still wet." And I go, "That's not the worst of it. You're gonna, like," she was in envy because I was at the beach and my bathing suit was still wet. And I go, "You really want to know the truth? But I was only down here for the day to go to the beach." And she's like, "Oh, just go, just go, just go." Like I felt sorry for her because she's stuck at work. Here's to you with my coffee. By the way, I have to drink a lot of coffee today because I've only had maybe, I think, about 3 hours of sleep. This is my second cup of the day. And if my hair wasn't curly before, this one would definitely make it curl now. It's a special coffee. And Victoria, if you're watching, yes, I did just succumb to gluten. I had a croissant. It was good-ish. Let's see now. Yes, so I'm in Miami for my decadent date, and I tell you, that did my soul so much good because I truly was very, very depressed. And depression is a common theme in my life. I'm almost always actively working on lifting my own thoughts. I have to be very conscious and aware. I have been dipping into depression again, and I'm pulling all of my tools out of my toolbox, and that's what I will also be talking about, that to give people value for what I'm not just talking about me and self-promoting me and giving you reasons why you should support me. I am also providing you an example of someone who's 55 years old and has gone through hell and back numerous times for a number of different life tragedies and stresses. And, I am that survivor. I am the Phoenix. Right now, I just want to be that success story and be that underdog story that, turns it into a very happy ending. But this mortgage, again, like, follow, shares, subscribe, comment, shop, book, check out my link tree. So we'll get into March, and I go up for the first time following up. Like, Michelle was feeding me a lot of videos and photos. Elliott Lake is actually 600 kilometers away from where I live. It is a distance. It is not easy. for someone like me who has driving anxieties to just hop up there and, take my mom with me or whatever like that. It wasn't easy. So we had to do a lot of constant communication during the renovations, but every so often I'd have to go up because I'm bringing supplies up that I can get cheaper down in the city, as we did in this situation. I had to hire somebody, a good friend of mine who's been there through a lot with me. We've butted our heads, but in the end we still somehow managed to figure things out and work together, and I'll mention, John. Thank you, John, if you see this video. Caroline, let him know. I know you're going to see this video because you watch like it's a soap opera. And it is a bloody soap opera. It's a real life soap opera. So John and I had to go up, and it's actually, today's the anniversary. St. Patrick's Day, it was 2020, 5 years ago, March 16th, 2020, we drove up and stayed the night in the Hampton Hotel, and we brought up supplies, dropped them off. We had to rent a truck, because there's no freaking way I'm driving a truck. Not with my highway anxieties. So, March 17th, 2020, we're sitting having breakfast at the Hampton Hotel after checking on things and dropping off supplies, and because there wasn't even floors laid yet, we brought the tiles up. Flooring was starting to be installed at that point when we got there. And we're sitting at the Hampton Inn, and they're talking about COVID, coronavirus 19. And there's big old Doug Ford on the big screen in the hotel dining area where they were serving breakfast, talking about how the province is being locked down and starting with the nursing homes. They had already started with the nursing homes at that point. My mom wasn't in a nursing home. I can't remember if she was being taken care of at home. I think Victoria was looking after her. I'm not sure exactly where it was. If Victoria would remember better at that. I don't know. But my mom was still in her house at that time. I was living with her in the Elephant. And I remember St. Patrick's Day, Premier of Ontario is announcing lockdowns, and I'm like, John, are we going to be able to get back in the city? Like, we should be getting back, like, ASAP. We got to know what's going on. Like, this was new to us. A pandemic was completely new to us in this regard, as it was to everybody else. Nobody knew what was going on. Didn't know how to treat this at all. It was very scary, being that far away from home, being that far away from my children, being that far away from my mom, everything we knew, and, possibility of not being able to get back. But, John was calm, we'll figure it out, alright, okay. And, we did get back to the city, no problem. And then things developed after that, as far as the lockdowns are concerned. And my oldest son was with us too. He was visiting, and he got locked down with us. So there's the three of us. He was working on his laptop, eventually. It was a really nice time, but a horrible time at the same time, in retrospect, because there's stuff that I've never talked about on Facebook, and All's good. Everybody's healthy, as far as I know. Lockdowns were the last time I lived with my oldest son. The last time he spent any significant time with my mom, his homie. Lockdowns. Ah, shit, I want to cry. I gotta drive still. Lockdowns traumatized my family further because it drove a wedge further between my mom, my oldest son, and myself, and my youngest two. Lockdowns, we were already a fucked up family. Our family was so fucking, in so much trouble. There was so much trauma and crisis and garbage we already had to deal with. And then lockdowns completely separated us and we couldn't even hold each other. Couldn't talk to each other except through car windows and house windows. I know a lot of people suffered. A lot of people suffered through a lot of families, a lot of individuals. And it was my mom couldn't understand what was going on. She was being traumatized because this shit was like listening to the war all over again for her. Alzheimer's had already done a number on her cognitive abilities, and she didn't understand why we couldn't have the kids over. It was a time. I couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't have any deliveries or anything like that. People were kind. They stepped up and brought us stuff. I had to protect my mom. I couldn't leave the house to go grocery shopping or anything like that. I used to have a prepper mentality, and it was so hilarious, the timing of COVID. Just a few months beforehand, like I always had 3 to 6 months of supplies of non-perishables and toilet paper and necessities. I always had 3 to 6 months. And somewhere in my mind in January of 2020, I said, screw that, I'm not living like this anymore. We are just going to use up what we have and, hope for the best. Nothing's going to happen. Stop living in fear. This is a fear-based situation by being prepared 3 to 6 months ahead. Go figure. Lockdowns happen and there's a toilet paper shortage. And when lockdowns happened, I think we had 3 rolls of toilet paper left in the house. And I'm like, what a time. What a time. Like, for almost 20 years. Excuse me. I am sick, by the way. I'm heavily medicated, so a lot of the symptoms are being suppressed, but I still have this bad cough. It's still showing. But anyway, I had always made sure to, because I had a large family, I learned how to can, I learned how to grow organic, I learned how to preserve food, and I learned how to do all these things just in case something happened. And, I learned how to grow flax and process flax and weave it into linen. That's how extensive I got with my research for prepping and stuff like that. I had this curiosity. I need for preparedness to make sure that my family was taken care of. And then January 2020, I'm like, nope, we're not living like this anymore. Let's just chill out, relax, and enjoy life. Everything is cool. We were, for the first time in a very long time, we were actually financially comfortable. That was the first time ever that I was financially comfortable. It was, we'll go back into my family story, what I did and all that stuff another time, but later today. But, COVID lockdowns were something special. And not in a good way. Yeah, it was, okay, I'm going to say in a good way because I do look for the best in everything. I learned a long time ago how to make do, and there was a time where I was severely agoraphobic, and I learned how to live without leaving the house. The only time, it was about 4 years where I did not leave the house unless I was with someone, and if I did leave the house by myself, it was to go to a doctor's appointment. That was it. So, COVID lockdowns were kind of easy for me compared to what most people were doing, because I knew just to keep busy and, take up new hobbies, do a lot of reading, watch a lot of movies. And then there was the news, which I really am not a fan of the news. I tried to avoid watching the news because I know how it can be very toxic, with what information it has. And, that was the one part that I had to, because I was running businesses, 2 of them, technically it's more, but to simplify things, it's 2 businesses. And I had to know how to pivot. I had to know what the rules were. I had to watch a lot of news. And that was, like I said before, it was hard on my mom. We only had the one TV, really. We had a TV in the basement, but I had to sit with my mom. She needed company. She needed to be taken care of. We did not have any help coming into the house. I actually had to fire a PSW on the spot because she was walking around. She was going house to house during the worst of COVID without a mask on. She walked into the house. I caught her once bathing my mom without her mask on, and then the second time, she just walked in without a mask on at all. And of course, height of paranoia of everything COVID related with before the ID. San McCallion is a daycare center for patients or people with Alzheimer's. my mom was going 3 times a week because they understood the circumstances that I was, this is before lockdowns now, that I was sole caregiver to my mom. She was, I'm back. Apparently, yeah, I had to go through more rock again. Ontario, man. Canadian Shield. Okay, so here's a value moment. If you have a loved one with Alzheimer's dementia or any other type of dementia, get into contact with your local Alzheimer's Society. Get your loved one involved with the daycare programs. They are subsidized. They do not cost a lot of money. They do cost money, but they don't cost a lot of money compared to children's daycare programs, that's for sure. And they do feed them, and some of them do have bathing programs, or there's somebody who comes in to take care of their feet. You pay for these things, but I do highly recommend, because they do have a Montessori approach where they will work with their clients at their level. I just found a coloring page from my mom the other day. Going through a lot of paperwork right now. I highly recommend that they do, that you put them, because you need the socialization. They need the socialization. Again, it's like dealing with somebody who is an adult-sized, a giant toddler. Most are in diapers, not all of them, but most are. My mom was by this point. Oh yeah. Oh, so much I went through. I could write a book just about my mom and her care. But yeah, access your local community for help as well. Heart and Stroke Foundation can help. Canadian Institute for the Blind help too, depending on what the issues are that your loved one is dealing with. I highly recommend reaching out to all the organizations, the issues that your loved one has, and see how they can help with their care. Oh, excuse me. Ooh, excuse me. Oh, yeah. Sneezing, sniffling, coughing, achy. Yeah. Anyway, my mom, Alzheimer's, COVID. Alzheimer's Society set up because the daycare program was one of the very first that was shut down with the nursing homes. Eventually, Alzheimer's Society got it together and created a day program schedule for every day where it was able to be accessed through my iPad. And multiple times a day there was something going on, and I swear to God, if I had to hear, "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine," one more time during that time, I was going to lose my shit. I had to, it was nice at first, witnessing the program, and sometimes I actually participated in the program. I, pop my head in, say hi, and one of the other blessings that the Alzheimer's Society of Peel did was they thought of the caregivers too, the people that were locked in during lockdowns with their loved ones. And I had this one social worker. Unfortunately, she cannot be on social media, but we still kind of remain in contact once or twice a year, send messages. But Morella would call me, and we'd have such wonderful conversations, and if it wasn't for her, I probably would have had my head screwed on tight, because it's one thing when you're dealing with an Alzheimer's patient who repeats all the time. It's another when you cannot escape from it at all, take a break from it at all.
The repetition. And my gift to you guys, if you haven't heard it already, when someone, if you're dealing with a loved one that is repeating themselves, please always answer the question as if it's the first time you hear it, because it's hard on them. It's hard on you. We know this. We already know this. It's not easy dealing with the repetition. But you just make things worse for everybody if you start exploding or saying, I've already told you this 5 minutes ago. You just asked me this. Don't say it. Don't ask me again. Don't say these things. If they ask you, where are we going, or what are we having for dinner today, and it's like the 50th time they've asked that, answer it again. Oh, we're having fish sticks and french fries for dinner today, Mom. I hope you enjoy it. It's one of your favorites, I think. Is it one of your favorites, Mom? Like stuff like that. Answer it like that. Every time. Or, change it up. Have a little fun with it. I wrote about it on Facebook one time. My mom, at some point during lockdowns, she called me up. I was downstairs in the basement, and I think I was having a nap or something, or just taking it easy for a few minutes. I needed to focus in, and she was upstairs in her bedroom. She had a nap. She calls me up from her bedroom which was really weird, because my mom had moments where she didn't know how to use a phone anymore, let alone knew how to dial my number. And she calls me up from her bedroom, and I'm almost directly below her. Like, I'm just a little bit below her. My bedroom was in the basement at this time. And she goes, okay, I'm ready to be picked up now. Can you come get me? And I go, oh, where are you, Mom? I don't know. I go, is it a nice place? And she goes, oh, it's very nice. Now remember, this is her bedroom of 60 some odd years already at this point. God bless her. And I go, Mom, are they feeding you? Oh, yes, they are. I go, are they being nice to you? And she goes, oh, they're very nice to me. And I go, oh, that's wonderful, Mom. Are you on vacation? And she goes, oh, yes, I am. And I go, that's so fantastic. This is the best vacation ever. And I'm thinking to myself, she's not even leaving her own bed. It's not costing me anything. And she thinks she's on the great vacation where she's being treated so well. I'm not paying anybody for this vacation. This is awesome. And I go, Mom, I'm just downstairs. I'll be right up to come pick you up. And she goes, oh, that'd be wonderful. Thank you. She was so adorable. My mom and I had a very, very difficult relationship. And, Victoria and I will probably talk about it at some point during our 7 hours back to Mississauga from Ottawa. Her and I had an extremely difficult relationship. We never saw eye to eye. My sister was her golden child. Heidi could do no wrong. Well, Heidi could do wrong in their eyes because that's the way my parents were. But Heidi was always the golden child in comparison to me. I was the black sheep. I did everything wrong. My parents had very few nice things to say to me. Very rarely ever in my life did they say anything nice to me. But at some point during Alzheimer's, I think it might have been 2018 or 2019, My mom had already had Alzheimer's, like signs of Alzheimer's for 10 or 11 years at that point. I think, or more than that. But she suddenly became very nice and appreciative of me and respectful to me and less demanding and more requesting. And I will treasure fucking Alzheimer's that gave it to us, but I will treasure that gift that it gave us. We had a few really good years. Really good years. Where I wanted to hold her hands instead of being afraid of them. This shit fucking mortgage came. My mom died in June, and I had to put so much focus and energy into the stupid mortgage. I couldn't give her what she deserved. I gave her what she wanted, which I didn't want that for her. A lot of people loved my mom. A lot of people respected my mom. They didn't know my mom the way I knew my mom, but I don't ever want to take that away from them. Fucking assholes. Lending company, my mortgage company, lawyer, idiot mortgage brokers. Not bad. That's a good guy. Let's talk about my mom's death. I've talked about it once before on YouTube. Nobody deserves to die that way. Like I said before, putting her in a nursing home was never what I wanted for her. I was praying for years that she would pass away with this illness or from something else, not cancer. I was praying for years that she would just gently fall asleep. Gently fall asleep. She didn't get that. I knew what was coming if she was going in a nursing home, and I knew with the research I did into Alzheimer's that I'd be facing if she didn't pass away gently in her sleep. I knew I'd be facing some hard decisions. Awful decisions. Impossible decisions. And again, I'm telling you this because if you're faced with the diagnosis for yourself, or you have a loved one, I don't want you or your loved one to have to go through this. And if you look in my link tree, there is a link to Dying with Dignity. Please support them. There's also a link with Alzheimer's Appeal. Please support them. I never thought I would be crying. I didn't want it. I wanted to do this while I was driving because I didn't think I would cry while I was driving. Oh. I think for Burger King napkins. Oh, I got regular napkins too. Excuse me. The nursing home she finally ended up in is steps down the street from me. So glad that she had them. I tried to give her the best from the very beginning, but at least it was steps down the street from me. At least in the end, it was steps down the street from me. And December 23rd, 2023, just before that, I had a meeting with the whole staff from the home. Excuse me. And they told me this will be her last Christmas. They knew the signs. And I'll review a little bit of what I've talked about on Facebook, because this is going to be edited, shared, whatever. Maximize this crazy ass marathon videos that we're going to have today. So I don't know who knows what. But on December 23rd, 2023, I already knew that this was going to be her last Christmas, and I went into her room. I decorated with what I could. We were already feeling financial strains and difficulties, so I had to keep it really simple. I couldn't go nuts with a lot of stuff. And I noticed while I was decorating that she wasn't calling me by name. I'm going to have to stop soon for charging. I'm actually approaching the charging station now. I'm going to pause it, take a break, and I'm going to pick up after I finish charging. And thanks guys for watching so far. Please go to my link tree. It's in my bio, profile, whatever. Share around my stuff. Help me out through this shit, please. Share, like, follow, comment, all that stuff. I see that there's comments, but I can't read them right now. I am pulling into the charging station, and hey, look, it's all fine. There's nobody smashing it or creating chaos here, thank God. But I'll be back in about 20 minutes or so.